Hi everyone, Melissa here with The Creative Season, and we are still in the middle of February, very cold, but we are looking forward to spring with lots of anticipation. I went back to the photograph archive of flowers from last year and also was just really having fun playing, anticipating, dreaming of the flowers that are going to be coming up, as well as also just using this as a bit of a journaling tool, as well as I talk about some of the things that were on my heart. And then I just kind of was at the end, you can see very faintly, I was writing in some of the verses in the flowers, or you could even journal around the flower tops, or if this is a close-up at the end, you could also just paint in the background. Lots of options for today's painting. Hi everyone, we are back with a fun painting for February. So I thought for the next few weeks what we would do, since at least where I am, there is still no sign of spring. There is ice. We were supposed to get 18 inches of snow today, and then all the wind, I guess, blew the storm out of the way. Not upset about that, although I love the snow. It's just been so cold. I'm ready for spring. However, spring isn't here yet, so we are just making the most. And what I thought I would do is to really just enjoy I was thinking about it this morning, a couple things. Just enjoy the time I have, because since it's so cold, I'm definitely spending more time indoors. And then to go back and pull out some of the pictures of the flowers that I didn't paint from last year. So these are all pictures from a friend of mine, Carol, her garden. She has a gorgeous garden, a beautiful garden. And so tons of succulents. There was tons of zinnias, tons of dahlias. I didn't print those. Lots of the brown-eyed Susans and the beautiful like daisy varieties. I think these are the brown-eyed Susans. Lots of different varieties, beautiful sunflower. But I thought, let's just paint this morning from the memories of last year. And you may have a bunch of pictures from your garden or a friend's garden. I borrow other people's gardens right now in my life. And let's go ahead and look and dream and plan and enjoy the spring season that we know is coming and the gorgeous flowers. And again, you might want to paint with me, but you might also just want to grab your own paint, your own pictures, and paint from your garden. So what I did is I took a couple paintings, or took a couple pictures, and I really loved this one here. I love that bunch of zinnias. I loved all the green and the warmth in this picture. There's a path behind it here, and I really like that. But then I was also looking at some of these flowers too. And there is a butterfly on this one, which we might do a close-up of this one next week, is what I'm thinking. But in the interim, I thought, let's just do an overview, like just a beautiful group of basically zinnias, and maybe there's a couple of brown-eyed Susans that snuck in there too. And we're gonna paint this scene. So I have sketched it out with a micron pen so you can see it better, but you can take a pencil if you want and sketch it out. You can hit pause if you want and sketch, or again, do your own. You can see all the leaves, and that is one of those distinguishing characteristics of the zinnias, which I love, is that they are so leafy. Like, they have tons of blooms, and there's tons of leaves too. They're just a very prolific flower, right? Okay, so grab everything around you that you need, some water, a brush. I've got a paper towel in case I need to dab at stuff. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna paint the flowers first, and I'm gonna just do some pinks today. I'm gonna let them dry, paint the path, and then I'll start painting the leaves. And I really haven't decided what I'm gonna do for the background. You can see in the actual background of this painting, there's a tree back there, and it actually casts quite a bit of a shadow. But I thought, do I want to do it dark? Do I just want to leave it light? We are wanting to paint in about 20-ish minutes, so we don't have tons of time, but there is enough time to do this really lovely sketch. And so I am, again, just moving around all my petals. I do love zinnias, the different kinds of zinnias too. Their petals will go out. Some of them are more flat and extensive, and the other ones, they almost kind of, like this one down here, they have almost layer upon layer upon layer of petals that are going out. My mom loves zinnias, loves them. She loves zinnias and she loves Gerber daisies. So I was just talking with her, texting with her, and I am gonna go visit her, and we're gonna plant her garden together in March, which I am super excited about. It will be fun to do that together. She has a beautiful yard with just like the ideal area for planting flowers, and I'm going to see if I can persuade her to plant a vegetable garden as well. She did one a couple years ago, and it was just really beautiful and prolific. Now you can see too, I don't necessarily sketch in all the petals. I just kind of put where I know they're going to go, and then I paint them in. And I'm looking too, if I look at even on these flowers, some of them are kind of scooching outwards, versus in this picture, you have one of the petals that's kind of just falling off. And I think these are the brown-eyed Susans, but they're pink. If I'm correct, I could be wrong. But again, with this is definitely all the zinnias, and you can see them. This flower is bigger. This one is kind of more, kind of straight, not straight, but it's a little bit, the petals are flatter and outstretched. So there is lots of different ways to paint zinnias, but their petals are long and they're colorful and they've got tons of leaves and they are happy and they defy the heat, or maybe I should say they thrive in spite of the heat. So you could have 3 weeks of triple-digit weather and they still flourish, which is always super interesting to see these flowers that can survive in extreme cold, which is definitely rare, like our amaryllis that we've been painting, or in the extreme heat. And I'm just going to go, I'm just dabbing a little bit of extra color there. Come in a little bit closer. Now you could as well, because a lot of these zinnias too, they have a little bit of a warm tinge to them. You could also get some yellow and mix the yellow in with the pink. Make it really, really watery. And then I can even dab a little bit of that in there. And it just gives, it doesn't look yellow, but it's a little bit warm. And this is just really, again, it's a watercolor sketch. We're just sketching in. We'll do another one down here. Our lovely flowers. Thinking about the upcoming spring and all the beauty that is going to be around us in the very not so distant future. And I had one more. There's always a flower I tend to forget. So I've got this one right here. Okay, I'm gonna let those dry for a second before I start adding the green, because pink and green simply make brown, which we do not want brown flowers. I'll come in closer. I'm gonna go ahead and do the path behind. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just use some the burnt sienna, just that light brown, warm light brown. And over here, I have some green grass poking up, so I'm not going to go right on the edge here. But this is going to add a little bit of depth. Take it just a little bit. If you have a darker brown, I'm just going to dab a little bit more right where I know we'd be having some shadows. Back here. And there we go. But it doesn't have to be too dark or too deep. Then I'm going to take some green, and why don't we just do a little bit of that grass. So I'm not going to paint tons of grass, but just along the walkway here. In the garden, there's actually more flowers right next. It looks like there's some really big marigolds, but just for the sake of keeping our painting single focus today, we'll just have the zinnias. One of these days, I've been wanting to paint like like a flower market with flowers and carts. I think that would be fun. Kind of like the one I see over in the Union Square, or I know there's all sorts of flower markets around in different cities. And I was reading about the flower markets in France. I guess there's a really big one there. That's the biggest in, I guess, all the world? Maybe not all the world. But it sounded amazing. I think I'm just excited for spring. So anything, flower markets, flowers, gardens, I'm just drawn to it right now. Okay, so we've got some grass going on there. And now we're gonna go ahead. And if you wanted to make your grass longer, you certainly could. Like this, we could just extend it. Like maybe it's there we go. Just to give it some different, just just to make things a little bit different. So that was a really light green. I am still going to use my permanent green, but then I am going to add a hooker's green on top of the zinnias, because zinnias are just so beautiful. You can even see here, it's that beautiful warm green, but there's also, especially under where the shadows are hitting, you can really see the darker green. And so we definitely want to emphasize that. We don't want just one color. So I'm going to start just working my way down. And maybe I'm doing one flower at a time, but maybe two. I just kind of move over here. I think that was a flower I meant to add a flower there, but this is maybe just a bud. And we'll just stick that one. That stem will be moving down here. The nice thing about zinnias is that I usually would say make sure every single flower has a stem and so forth, but it's also crazy that everything starts to just get a little bit of a jumble, like it's a zinnia jungle is what it is. And so it's okay if we end up having extra stems, or we might have a leaf or two that we can't quite tell which flower it belongs to. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to work up here. I just picked up some more water. I picked up some more permanent green. Let me come over here just a little bit. I've got some tea with me. I need to make sure I don't knock it. I'm keeping it farther away because I unintentionally dropped the paintbrush into the tea, which I am apt to do the other day, which kind of ruins the tea a little bit. I don't think watercolor paint is toxic, but I'm always like, I probably shouldn't be drinking it. Okay, so we're just moving down here. Now before this paint dries, I am going to drop in the darker color, right? So I'm going to get this wet. I'm actually just going to pull this down. A couple more leaves here. And then I'm going to pick up the hooker's green. Or if you just have another darker green on your palette. If you don't have a darker green, if you have a blue, you could take your blue and mix it with the green and we'll get a darker green. But we just want to make sure that we have another green in here. And so again, I'm going to see where my leaves, especially those on the bottom that are going to be covered by either other leaves or by the zinnia, or depending on where the sun is hitting at the day, right? Maybe the sun could be just starting to go down. But in our picture, I believe when I took these pictures, it was maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the sun was pretty high up. But you can see you don't want to do all of your green at the same time of one color, because then it will be dry when you go back in, right? And so then you won't be able to get that blending look. Okay, now this part I'm going and starting with the darker, with this particular stalk right here. I'm just going to outline it, and then I'm going to fill it with the lighter. And so we'll see what that looks like. And this is one that didn't have a flower top. So I've got that. I'm going to pick up the permanent green now. And now I am just going to start adding that in. I'll come in just like that. If you wanted your green to be lighter, you could just add a little bit of yellow. The yellow that we added in for our pink to make that warmer, I would just use that yellow, and I can show you what that looks like. So if I was going to add that yellow that I was using, so I have the yellow here, and then what I'll do is I'll just put it in my permanent green if you wanted a lighter green. And you just kind of mix it. That's what I mix in the palette till I get the hue that I want. And then I can come over here. Oh, come right over here. I have my little head of the flower. And you can see it's definitely that lighter, right? And I can take some more of that and even add it over here too. So I'll just drop a little bit over here. This is just our watercolor sketches. We're just easing into, maybe you're easing into the morning if you're painting with me in the morning, or maybe it's been after a long day and you're just relaxing. And we're just really having fun painting these beautiful stems and leaves. I woke up this morning too. I'm not usually like super anxious, but just kind of going through a season of just some things on my mind and my heart. And I remembered that verse, or I should say, Jesus reminded me of that verse when he talks about, consider the flowers of the field, or the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin, yet not even Solomon in all of his glory was arrayed like one of these. And it is amazing to look at the gorgeous flowers, to look at all the flowers in nature, the trees. They don't worry about a thing. They still grow, they thrive in season and out of season. They respond to the cues of nature just like they're designed to do. And they don't worry. I love that Jesus used the comparison of the flowers of the field. They don't worry about what they're going to dress, wear, which is so funny because flowers are so gorgeous and you can't improve upon them with any sort of quote-unquote fashion. But I was thinking too, if you like to use your painting as a journal, the watercolor sketches, this fun way to, and I'm just picking up that lighter, the orange and, not the orange, the yellow and green combination. You could even journal around the flowers or on the stalks of the flowers, and you could either write out the verse or you could write out a replacement. So instead of saying I'm concerned or I'm upset or anxious about X, Y, and Z, I'll sometimes say I'm entrusting this, or I'm giving this to Jesus. That verse, cast all your cares upon him for he cares for you. But it's changing the way we think about it, right? Okay. And I do say, even though it is freezing outside, I think it's like 18 degrees or something like that, the sun came out. And so the sun is coming through the window right now, and I am so grateful for that. It's really hard when there's too many days that are cold and gray, but if it's cold and then the sun comes out, I'm like, great. The sun is not exactly warm, but there's just something about being hit by the sunlight. I kind of feel like a flower. I feel like I bloom a little bit more if there's too many days without the sun. I think that's from living in California for so long. We are just spoiled because we have so much sun there for so many days. Okay, let's see how this is looking. What do you think? I think this looks really fun. Let's back off. I always like to back it out. Sometimes too, if you want to take a picture of your painting with your phone, and then you'll look at the picture of it, and you'll see things on the picture on your camera, on your phone, that you won't see, that you just don't see when you're staring at it. So that's a fun way to evaluate it. Where are we with the time? Oh, we're at 17 minutes. This is really good because actually we were moving around with a little bit of intricacy, weren't we? Now let's go ahead and do a few things that we can just wrap this painting up if you wanted to finish it like this. I'm going to pick up some yellow, not the yellow mixed with the green, just the yellow by itself, and I'm going to put it over here with the brown. And I'm just going to kind of lighten up our path as well as spread some of that yellow around. Because remember, we're always wanting our colors to move all around the painting. Now the other thing is too, if you notice, like I'm noticing down here, my leaves are pretty light. I'm going to just quickly take that darker green, and they would have definitely more shadow just because of all the leaves on top. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm even going to add in a couple of other stalks that are darker green, and then add in some leaves. And again, because we have just a plethora of leaves here, I am not worried that you can trace where every stalk is going. It's a jungle. It's a zinnia jungle, and we love it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and create a little bit of a fullness in here by adding in some more stalks and some color. Like that. Now you could also do a little bit of splattering. That can be a lot of fun. And I think I might finish up this painting with some splattering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pink, rinse off your paintbrush really good, and if you want to do some splattering, I'm just going to splatter around the edges up here of the zinnia. We didn't do any butterflies, but we can think that maybe there's some really tiny ones. I'm actually going to take some brown and do a little bit of brown splattering too. Just a little bit, not tons. Some splattering down here. And let me do a little bit of the yellow And we'll just splatter that. Very pretty, and springish, right? So springish. You could always come back and add a little bit more detail. Again, add a little bit of a journal. You could journal up top. You could journal on the leaves. You could write out a verse or maybe a little bit of a poem that you love about spring, but this is fun. Consider the Flowers is what I'm naming this one. I'm so thankful I had these flowers from last year and so thankful for the garden that I got to peruse for a couple of hours and just enjoy the hard work that was done to create and cultivate so much beauty. So I hope you have an absolutely beautiful day. Wherever you are, stay warm, drink tea, and keep painting. We'll be back soon.